how people clearly communicate, how bravely can they improvise, how much imagination they're willing to bring forth.
What most people think improv is, seen an improv show, a comedy club. When I say improvisation now, I am more so talking about the world of applied improvisation, which again is showing up authentically, responding in the moment. That I looked around, recognized the work that people are doing, the mission of this company, it's fine. Like it's not the most interesting work in the world, and yet all of these brilliant, young, excited people are working here, and it's because the culture is fantastic. Often I'll hear I'm not a very creative person. And I take a strong stance against that. The things that are obvious to them look like creativity to everyone else. Teams that fail together without blame are more bonded, more connected, and more effective teams that succeed together and assign credit. There's a game called 3 Things that I play all the time just when I want to wake my brain up, and letting yourself say the next most obvious thing. Even as the models get better, it's just not.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Founders Foyer with me, Aishwarya. This foyer is full of conversations, the space where creators, founders, and builders look for all the support and concepts to grow their ideas into products. What if the real moat in this AI-saturated workplace isn't more tools, but how human it still feels to build things together? In a world where vibe coding and AI copilots can almost translate any instruction to a code, the leverage slowly shifts to how people clearly communicate, how bravely can they improvise in uncertainty, and how much imagination they're willing to bring forth. Jessia Hoffman lives exactly at this intersection. As a founder of on-deck workshops and a Stanford instructor in applied improvisation, she spent years using improv, story, and play to help teams at companies like Google, Bloomberg, and Cisco become more connected, courageous, and creative. Her fully experiential sessions, which we're going to talk all about today and understand the tools and techniques around it, the games, the shared rituals, and all the moments quietly transform how people relate to risk, failure, and each other, which exactly is what humanness is all about. And AI can't automate that. Jessia, welcome to the show, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Aish. I think I should bring you everywhere with me, because that was such a robust and also heartfelt introduction. I think that I imagine I am a different type of founder than you often have on the pod.
Absolutely. And that's the exact flavor I think listeners would also need, because what you're doing, Jessia, with other founders and other business operators is incredible. And not in real worlds would people really connect improv. And when they think of improv, there's always very, very different connotations people have. And how does that connect back to business is an amazing thing that you're doing. So I'm so excited for this episode.
Thanks, Aish. And I know that you also have a love of improvisation, and so I'm thrilled to be able to really connect the world of improv as well as the world of business and tech in particular, considering I do sit in Silicon Valley, work all over the world, but work a lot with the tech companies.
Yes. And that's exactly where we started. What do you do with on-deck workshops, and how did you get this idea in the first place?
Yeah. Thank you. So I have been improvising for almost 20 years. I was really lucky to be able to discover improvisation in high school. And my coach was Lisa Rowland, who actually now teaches at Stanford as well. She's a dear colleague and friend,
Lovely.
which is
So what is improvisation? Maybe we'll start there, and also
discovering improv. Totally. So to improvise is to respond authentically in the moment. What most people think improv is, they're like, oh yeah, I've seen an improv show, in college, or I went to a comedy club. And yes, I myself have also been a performing improviser. I have made people laugh on stage. I've gotten up hundreds of performances in front of audiences and co-created stories with my fellow players. That is one version of improvisation. When I say improvisation now, I am more so talking about the world of applied improvisation, which again is showing up authentically, responding in the moment to whatever the people around you need and what you need as well, and actually communicating from a place of integrity.
Mm,
We imagine that improv, oh, they're just making stuff up. But actually, what we find both on stage as well as off stage is that when we are able to tap into a place where we are actually accessing our ideas that are most obvious to us,
mm,
that's often when truth comes out. So it's interesting to think about the way in which we can create together and be incredibly innovative, and it's
mm.
all coming from really a source of truth from within. That's a little more wooey than I than I often go when I'm introducing improv in a corporate setting. But
Oh,
at the end
yeah.
of the yeah, but at the end of the day, there's a huge amount that we can learn from the improv mindset, which applies to business. Things like
Mm.
how do we work together effectively? How do we connect and build relationships? How can we collaborate in a way that does lead to newness, to innovation, and also inclusivity? All of this is stuff that we could talk about.
Right. No, this is fantastic because you rightly pointed out the stark contrast that people generally think improv about and what could it really mean from a business context. And even to me, this is super new because the other side that we're talking about, the business context, is always, I think, shied away as, oh, like these are soft skills or these are some things that you should know. Perhaps like that's what you have a leadership coach for, or that's what you go to some, I don't know, like a boss at your workplace for. But the fact that this could actually enhance creativity and this could mean like you're thinking very differently from the standard norms is such a surprising fact. So thank you for bringing that to the table, Jessia. Like from your childhood, like we started talking about your high school days. So from that to actually starting on deck, walk us through what made you do that.
Yeah, so I fell in love with improv. I found as a little ninth grader in a really big public school, I'm very petite also. I'm 4'10", and back then I was probably like 4'6", like I was tiny. And improv gave me the permission to step into all these different characters that ended up really being different versions of myself. So my confidence, my ability to yes, get on stage, but also to be really expressive off
Hmm.
stage as well, to communicate with more gravitas, that came directly from practicing improv. And
Hmm.
so already as a high schooler, I was seeing the benefits off stage from practicing this art form that's about co-creating together on stage. I went to undergrad at Stanford and was very lucky that I landed at Stanford because Stanford has a very strong improv program that was started by Patricia Ryan Madsen, who wrote the book Improv Wisdom.
Hmm.
Amazing. Check it out. Highly
Yes.
recommend everyone listening. And I met Dan Klein, who's another one of my dear mentors and now friends who continue to expand my world. Dan was at that time growing his own consultancy, so teaching at Stanford, but also going around the world and bringing the concepts of improvisation
Hmm.
to organizations. So that was the first time that I saw, oh, improv improv can be a job. Like that would never
Yeah.
occurred to me. And upon graduating, I studied creative writing and Spanish and dabbled in all the things engineering and business, etc. But never thought I would be an entrepreneur. And when I graduated, I worked in arts organizations, I worked in nonprofit, I worked in tech. And it was actually in this tech job that I looked around and recognized, hey, the work that people are doing, the mission of this company, it's fine. Like
Hmm.
it's not the most interesting work in the world, and yet all of these like brilliant, young, excited people are working here, and it's because the culture is
Hmm.
fantastic. They had a really, really robust, inclusive culture, lots of employee resource groups. And and that's when the light bulb went off for me, recognizing that even though the job wasn't necessarily like, again, the most enticing thing in the world. The Because of the culture, people stayed. Because of the culture, people had friends at work and they actively wanted to then up level, like they contributed to making the work more interesting or making the
Mm.
mission more attractive. And so I had been coaching improv on the side for a really long time as well, and it was the right moment for me. I actually had a health crisis too, and went through a first big breakup of my life as well
Oh.
with my first love. So I was in a very low point in this tech job, trying to learn code for the first time, how to code for the first time, and that's all to say, it just was the right moment. I quit that job in this very low place and
Mm.
started on deck workshops. That was the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And pretty immediately, the people who I'd been coaching on the side in improv classes started to bring me into their companies to work with
Mm.
teams.
Wow. That's quite a journey, and I'm glad that what I loved about what you shared is how everything connected together like dots. What started you in terms of getting interested in this space slowly began to get more of your effort, and then slowly it began to be exactly what you wanted in your career. So that's quite interesting. And Asha, for me, as I heard through this entire story, what was very starking was it's almost like I can take a decision today that, well, if I choose to practice improv, then I can also try to do improv. It's not something that, as people think, it's not like, oh, I don't think I can do this, or I don't think this is something that I would get it. Instead, for me, as I heard more of what you said, it just felt like, oh wait, I can learn this, or looks like a skill that I can get to practice and then get to own it up. So I have two questions for you there. One is improv something that people can choose today? And if, let's say, somebody's choosing to do it today, does it look like something they can practice and get better at and almost think of it like a skill that they can own? And of course, the second one being how should their mindset be in order to look at improv in that way? Because we spoke about how improv is often confused with, oh, like what? I'm not a stand-up comedian at the end of the day, right? It's just,
Right. Yep.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Very rich questions. I think it's helpful to mention here that when I was teaching improv classes, I would have people. I was in Silicon Valley. I was literally in Palo Alto, and I had tech executives. I had lawyers. I had people who were recently retired or flirting with retirement. I had people, adults of all ages, many of them in high-powered jobs who had had high-powered jobs, who were trying improv for the
Mm,
first time. And none of them would call themselves quote unquote natural improvisers. All of them were truly stepping out of their regular zone. And
yeah.
many of my adult students have continued to improvise. Like even to this day, they're still seeking out classes. They have groups, and then
Mm,
in their lives, they're still in their jobs connecting what we practiced to the work that they're doing. So that's all to say, yes, I mean, thousands of people at this point go from saying like, "Oh God, I'm nervous. I don't know why I signed up for this." Like what am I doing here? To recognizing, oh, okay, I can play these games. I can practice the skill of spontaneity. I can
mm,
practice the skill of listening really actively. I can practice the skill of building on the next idea. I can practice the skill of letting myself have ideas in first draft. And all of those are skills that
mm,
100% everyone listening, certainly, if you are in a
yeah.
mindset of wanting to listen to a podcast where you're learning things, like a
Yeah.
thousand percent, all you need is the desire to learn. And what we do in both improv classes as well as in the programs that I
Mm,
deliver is I am bringing exercises that have been honed over many years,
mm,
exercises and games that intentionally connect people in real time. So that's why I do a lot
Oh,
of team
right.
building and team culture, connect people in real time while teaching the skills of how to connect. So it's like a double
Hmm.
value because you're getting deeper and building relationships with your colleagues that open
Right.
channels of communication, enable collaboration, and also actually practicing being responsive in the moment and
Hmm.
practicing letting some levity in and practicing being in brainstorming mode versus
Hmm.
convergence mode.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I know there was a lot to your question, so feel free to like ask
No,
whatever pieces you
absolutely.
want.
No, this is very interesting because as you just said this, two things came up to me. One was, oh, sounds more like when I face something like fear or when I have certain hesitancy, is that when I would go sign up for improv? Or generally, I was curious to understand what makes people sign up for improv. Like, is it because,
Yeah,
oh, improv is new, so I want to go do this? Or what really kindles, because I know what would kindle me. It's the spontaneity. It's the fact that, oh my God, I get to do something so new. And this is so uncomfortable. So I really want to do it. But what are generally the reasons why people sign up for improv in the first place? One thing I definitely heard from what you said is that hesitancy or discomfort to be able to handle certain things. So they kind of want to sign up. So that definitely came up as one of the questions. And to me, the second observation I had from what you said was it's a lot of letting oneself loose because at workplace and I think in business there's so much rigidity, there's so much like being tight and sticking to rules. So it sounds more like improv is a way that you can let yourself a bit free, loosen yourself up of sorts. So yeah, I would love to know more about these two.
totally. You're right on the money there. I mean, and I will say, I think it would be useful for us to speak to what encourages or inspires individuals to seek out improv, and then
Yeah,
also why organizations bring on deck
absolutely.
workshops in, because they're
Mm.
different answers even if some of the value kind of overlaps. So in terms of people,
Hmm.
over the years, what I've heard, number one reason that people come to an improv class is more or less what you're speaking to. Like they want to open themselves up. They
Mm.
recognize that they perhaps get really nervous when they're speaking, whether it's in front of a big group or even just conversationally. People want to get more creative, or often I'll hear like, I'm not a very creative person, and
Mm.
I take a strong stance against that. But instead of it in words, I show them through their own experience in games that actually the things that are obvious to them look like creativity to everyone else.
Mm.
Because the things that are obvious to you, that just come to your brain naturally based on your identity, your experiences, everything you know, that is actually creative to other people. It looks creative because no one else would deliver
Mm.
content like you do or have that exact idea with and
Right.
share it with the exact cadence. And that can be a massive aha moment, especially when it comes from actually experientially going through a game, having people respond and laugh at what you said without you
Mm.
trying to be funny. And then it's like, oh, I made people laugh. I
Yeah.
never thought I was funny. I never thought that I could be, creative. So I think people come to improv because they want to open themselves up. They want to become better communicators.
Mm.
They want to like be able to tap into their ideas and share their ideas more freely. Like you use the
Right.
word free. I think freedom
Mm.
is a big word when we think about what it means to improvise. We're
Yeah.
freeing ourselves from the internal editor that tells us we have to have a fantastic idea before we share something.
Right.
So so
Yeah.
that's I think what draws people into improv. And
Mm.
then at least in my experience and in my classes, often people are walking away with real life skills and
Mm.
kind of big big life thoughts and feelings. What I mean by that is people will walk away and they will have come into a class as strangers and legitimately leave as a cohort,
Right.
as a team,
Right.
and that's why so many people, even before I took the leap to quit my job and start
Mm-hmm.
on deck, I had so many people who were like, Jessia, my team needs this. Like our
Mm.
morale is low, or there's mistrust on the team, or we have people who are in silos and we don't know how to like break through to communicate
Mm.
more effectively, or I'm a new manager and I'm really struggling with like
Yeah.
how to give and receive feedback in a way that's human and open. So
Right.
yeah, those are some of the things that people walk
Things.
away from. Yeah, that from an improv class that maybe don't they that didn't draw them in because to sign up because they didn't know that
Yeah.
they would take away so much.
No, makes so much sense. And also, I think you clarified one part of the question that I had in mind, which is, oh, like, how would people see this differently from, let's say, a leadership coaching versus something like a psychotherapy versus this? Because each of it has its own intersections. But what I hear from you and about the experiences that people have is that sense of figuring that freedom and also taking some of these exercises personally and almost looking at it from a gameplay rather than a very, I guess, a very thoughtful or a very serious perspective is what I hear out of improv. So that's very interesting for sure. And of course, the second and the last bit that I'd love to hear more on the basics or the 101 of improv is it always a team thing then? Because what I heard from you is, oh, like we do this with teams, we do this with companies, our teammates. But is improv also something that personally I can look at it to improve myself, like to kind of like open up and have this skill built for just me? Is a solo improvisation even a thing? And you also did mention applied improvisation. Like how does that differ from something like a, oh, like I know improv is comedy of sorts?
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I'll say. The skills that you build from practicing improv definitely apply on an individual level. Like you will feel, well, I shouldn't say you will feel, but what I have experienced myself and have heard from again thousands of people I've worked with is like there's so much personal transformation that happens
Hmm.
when we free ourselves up.
Right.
However, in terms of learning to improvise, it is really a team sport. It is
Right.
like we could like you can improvise with just two people.
Hmm.
Certainly there's even performance groups where it's called duo prov where it's just two people.
Okay.
And really what we're doing right now is improvising. I mean, every conversation is improv. We are listening to
Mm.
each other, building off of each other's ideas. So but that practice really fundamentally happens between two people.
Mm.
Now, yeah, I don't know if we'll get into, I don't even know. I'm still developing my perspective on like improvising, practicing the skills with AI because that is
Mm.
another
Yeah.
being of sorts. And there are some people who are developing
Yeah.
some improv games with AI. I do feel because there's such connective benefits and like relationship building benefits with
Mm.
improv. I'm very pro like finding humans and
Humans.
improvising.
Right.
I'd say for skill building, you want to be doing it in with at least one other person, if not multiple other people.
Mm.
And if you're someone who is an individual who wants to start, you're like, hey, these skills of spontaneity and being able to feel more comfortable in my own skin and being able to play the whole range of power dynamics and get more comfortable with interpersonal dynamics. If all that sounds good to you, like I would say reach out to me for suggestions for classes because that's really where you're gonna be able to
Yeah.
practice.
Right.
Um,
So a sort of setting that it requires and also helps you. I guess the fruits of it helps you personally, but then it's more fun to do it with the group and also have this interpersonal connect with everybody else around.
when we're building the skills and practicing, which is so fun and is useful and worthwhile in and of itself.
Right.
So you asked about applied improvisation, and I also alluded to like, okay, why are companies paying on deck workshops
Hmm.
a lot of money because our programs are very high touch and extremely high ROI. Like, what is that ROI? Why are companies investing in this? We maybe a few companies out there care deeply about the well-being of their employees and, like, in an altruistic sense. But at the end of the day, obviously there has to be a business case where it's like, this
Right.
is going to make our teams work better together so that the business makes more money. Like, that's how
Hmm.
things work under
Right.
capitalism.
Right.
And so we know
No,
this.
absolutely. We know. And it's so cute
So
how we call this whole thing as an improv, right? So I like the fact that, oh my God, you're not listening to a podcast. You're just listening to an improv with two people on board.
totally, totally. This is our improvised set. It's our first one. So the reason that someone will call me up or reach out and say, like, hey,
Hmm.
can we do something? So the number, like, our number one value prop is connection and relationship building,
Right.
is team cohesion. And we often we will plug in I like to kick off offsites, retreats, conferences, and we work with groups from, it can be like a tiny team of, I don't know, the smallest team I've worked with is probably like six, and
Hmm.
then recently ran a program for a team of 500. So
Wow.
it really scales, which is actually, I think, one of our key differentiators, is that we are able to say, hey, we're going to provide your team with a program that gets people on their feet, moving, laughing, connecting, and interacting in ways that they don't typically at work, that still feel really, really safe and also extremely fun, like legitimately energizing. And that will set the tone for the rest of your for the like the rest of your offsite, for the rest of time, hopefully, on
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
team. Like, when what we do is get people, yes, to connect, and then again, we're giving them skills to continue connecting with each other, both internally as well as, externally, if they have clients, or even just in their lives. And the so that's why people reach out. That's the number one reason.
Hmm.
In addition, we do a lot in the realm of creativity and
Right.
innovation, and so teaching people how to have an effective brainstorm. Because
Hmm.
what uh what so often happens in corporate spaces, maybe you've experienced this, is, there's often time pressure. Uh people are stressed out and want to move really, really quickly, but also want to do a good job. And that combination leads to meetings where someone will throw out an idea, and then everybody will say, yeah, maybe, but,
Hmm.
and then like analyze it really intensely and pick it apart. And that yes butting doesn't actually get us to
Yeah.
where we want to go.
Correct.
And and so we do a lot in the realm of, like, how can you actually craft a space where you can first diverge and explore the realm of possibilities, and then converge together on an idea that's actually going to be likely made closer to what you actually want, than if you had just kind of left it open. um, so teams will come back and say, like, oh my God, we got somewhere brilliant, even in, like,
Hmm.
our first pass of
Right.
of using our tools. Um,
Right.
I'm kind of going into, there's a lot in the realm of applied
No, no,
improvisation.
absolutely, absolutely.
So
And that's exactly where I want to get into next, because you rightly brought about the effect of what improvisation could do to a team, and basically the 101 of what even improvisation means. So this brings me into the section where I'd love to dig slightly deeper into some of these tools and techniques that we are talking about, that you've personally helped most of the teams like Google and Cisco and LinkedIn and all of these professionals from these companies. You've done what I can understand as experiential learnings, which is you have play or theater based formats, you have games, you have prompts. So, share with us some tools and techniques, especially think of us as someone who's just starting with the baby steps of improv, and we're just coming to you and saying, hey, would love to understand what this is, and do teach us some tools. So, what would those be then in that case?
Yes. And I will tell you, Aish, that this is always the funniest part of my job because what I do, as you said, is fundamentally experiential, which
Hmm.
means that it is hard to understand until you experience it. So
Right.
you can imagine my sales calls with new clients are like, over the years I've learned how to describe in ways, but mostly we just get stuff through word of mouth because that's kind
Right.
of the only way. So what it looks like when you'd step into an improv class or into one of our workshops with your team. So often we have a big open space when we're in person, and we get everybody on their feet, barring any access needs, we can always accommodate as well. And uh, often I start by like getting everybody in a circle just because it feel not when we're with 500 people, but it feels like
Hmm.
even with like 80 people or 100 people, it's powerful to be able to see everybody and kind of feels like we're hearkening back to a more childhood arena, which can be helpful to get to get into a more low stakes mindset. And pretty quickly, what I try to do is disarm people and I have some techniques that I'm not going to give away just in case people are in our workshops. But I essentially, as a facilitator, am getting the group on my side so that they know like, hey, I understand that this is probably different from other things that you've done. Likely you're like, what's she about to have us do? I often don't even mention improv actually at this juncture. Sometimes I don't talk about improv at all because the techniques that I bring in, yes, come from improv, but also come from design thinking and other
Right.
experiential learning methodologies. So pretty quickly, I'm getting people into pairs or trios or small groups to engage in some sort of game or exercise that has a really specific uh, flow to it and goal. So sometimes I'll
Any
start with,
example that comes to mind, like
yeah,
just for,
I'll share. So sometimes I'll start with an exercise around failure. So
hmm.
um, this one's actually a favorite at Stanford. It involves counting back and forth to three over and over
Okay.
again with a partner, switching off who said each number, which sounds really basic. And people are
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll do this. And actually, if actually, do you want to try right
Of
now?
course. Would
Yeah.
love to.
Okay, so I know we're over Zoom, so it's a little different, but
Hmm.
so we'll switch off who says each number, but we're just gonna count to three over and over as fast as we can.
Okay.
One,
Two.
three,
One.
two,
Three.
one,
Two.
three,
One.
two,
Three.
one,
Two.
three. Okay,
Oh,
over Zoom, it's a little laggy. I don't often do it
yeah.
over Zoom. But what happens? Yeah, did you notice what happened for you?
I was basically waiting for your cue in the sense I was like trying to really listen to you and trying to really understand, oh, like, is this person saying? And then in my mind, the other snippet was, oh, as soon as she says, I've got to like tell this. And it was like a very racy back and forth sort of a thing.
Yeah, great. You were like listening, you were waiting. It might have brought you into a little bit more presence as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So
The pause and all that was, yeah.
in person we're able to go much faster. And what happens is people end up screwing up.
Hmm.
They mess up. And there's ways I make it harder. So again, not going to give it away because this is a fun one to experience in real time, but we make it harder as we go and people are really messing up. And the exercise is all about, okay, what do we do in the moments when we fail? Like how does our body respond to failure? And I'll tell you that the majority of people, when they fail, even in a game with virtually no stakes, like this is a
Hmm.
game, it doesn't matter if you screw up, and yet people will close down. Like they'll break eye contact, they'll back away. Sometimes people like physically punish themselves, like go, like why did I do
Oh.
that? Or shield their face. Like it's
Hmm.
wild what I see from a facilitator standpoint, and that's all because we've been taught well, one, we have an internal response, right? As if a
Yeah.
lion is coming at us. And then also we've been taught to like feel so much shame when we screw up. And actually that closing down is not useful.
Mm.
It is the opposite of useful when we think about how do we stay in a, well, one, stay connected to our partner, and
Yeah.
two, stay in a creative, generative headspace. So I have people at the top of many workshops actively practice opening up in response to failure
Mm.
instead of shutting down. And I count failure as anything from messing up to even just hesitating. Like
Yeah.
when you feel like you don't know what to say or do, I give people a way to open up and go, woohoo, or I'm failing. And I know it sounds silly when I'm just doing it in here and I'm in my house, but but when suddenly we're together and we're a team and I screw up and both of us go woohoo and then just keep going, it is so relieving. It's so much more fun. I feel like we're actually on the same side because this is something I learned from Dan Klein. Teams that fail together without blame are more bonded, more connected, and more
Mm.
effective than teams that succeed together and assign credit.
Right.
So failing
Interesting.
without blame is a powerful, powerful bonding agent, and also allows us to just stay in that generative place. So,
Yeah.
so that's that off, and also there's laughter. So there's laughter is really connective as well, and it breaks tension. Like if I mess up and then I laugh, I'm like, oh, is this okay? Like, are we good here? That can be connective as well, and so often an exercise like that really warms the
Mm.
room and then gives people a really specific tool to take with them throughout the rest of the workshop. But actually, I've had teams who I work with them a year later and they're still woohooing and they
Mm.
continue to take that mentality because at the end of
Mm.
the day, the woohoo is representative of psychological safety.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Representative
And
of like how do we create a space where we can fail without fear of negative repercussions.
yeah, no, this is super interesting, and also like it brings me to ask you definitely this part of it. A lot of this is it's almost like I don't realize that you're making me loosen up, and then I'm almost like laughing, or I'm almost like woohooing, or like really chiming in with the partner. But have you observed any sort of especially for some of these professionals who could be like C-suite leaders or someone like you and I, who is probably in tech and who's leading teams, who's in companies, all of us have this inner fear of, oh, like I just don't want to, have people see my inner layers. So I'm just going to feel all cooped up. So some of these exercises are definitely like unwinding, but have you also seen general hesitation with people, even though they consciously signed up for wanting to do improv? Are there like layers that usually take time for them to be able to come and then engage with your games or improv techniques?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will say, like these days, 95% of the time when I facilitate, I'm working with people who did not sign up for this. Like because
Mm.
I'm coming in to someone's offsite and they had they weren't the person who hired me, right? That's like the leader or the HR or people team who the event person who hires me. And so they're not opting in, which is a really interesting thing to point out because that means that as a facilitator, and this is true
Mm.
for all of my facilitators, we really have to know how to make a room feel held
Right.
at the right from the top. And what I've learned
Mm.
over the years is that the first 2 minutes of my workshop is the most important. And
Mm.
this is straying a little from your question, but what I've recognized that I have to do as a facilitator is I have to get people to laugh pretty quickly, probably a few times. I need to like make sure that I'm connecting with people with my eyes. Like there's a lot of kind of public speaking skills that come in. but I also can't be so removed that
Yeah.
it seems like I'm separate from them. Like I have to
Mm.
make it clear that I actually understand them, even when I'm walking into rooms where like I don't always really know exactly what the team does. Like sometimes it's highly technical and I can understand to a certain extent, but I'm like,
Mm.
I'm not there in their day to day. And yet I work with teams across industries
Mm.
and these tools and techniques apply. Like I've never had an industry where it didn't apply because at the end of the day, what I'm teaching are fundamentally
That's
human
true.
skills, the human side of management, of leadership. So
Mm.
to get back to your
No,
question,
actually, sorry,
yeah,
hold your
yeah,
thought there, because
yeah, yeah.
it's fascinating. So the first 2 minutes is important, not just for you, but I think for also the people who are actually listening,
Yes.
because it's within the 2 minutes that they have this complete transformation of what they thought they would be versus like what they end up being. So if that's not too confidential, would love to really understand what would the 2 minutes entail for you and for them. Like any context on, like for example, any kind of tools. Like one thing, I don't know if I've been observant of you, I realized that there is a very like sort of a very thin line between self-deprecation versus also making fun of oneself. So I realized that when we
Mhm.
make some jokes of ourselves and when we make the little, oh my god, like I do this because of this, what funny creature I am and stuff like that, it just makes people put them at ease. And I did observe that you kept doing that quite a bit from the start of the session as well, where you did a little bit of jokes on yourself. So are these like tools and techniques that you generally use within the first 2 minutes, first couple of minutes, just make people at ease? Just curious on that.
Well, I will say brilliant interviewer because I think it's really smart to notice what someone is doing and comment on it. And I so appreciate that observation from you. Okay, so my answer is gonna sound like a cop out, but I promise that it's accurate, which is I can't really tell you what those 2 minutes are because I am actively reading the room and responding
Hmm.
to what's happening in the room. So,
Right.
okay, so as a little like asterisk on that,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
were mentioning that you notice that I maybe like make some like comments about myself to put other people at ease. That's not something that I'm doing intentionally. I think what I'm doing is bringing different parts of myself to
Hmm.
bear based on what I'm feeling in in the
So
moment.
the authenticity of bringing yourself in.
Yeah, I think that frankly, like what I've learned even in the past couple years is that
Hmm.
because I am now such an expert at facilitating and running my workshops, designing them, delivering them, and I really know how to run the exercises, how to develop exercises, how to debrief, what like all of the actual content is
Hmm.
so in me the piece that I've like where I've grown is in allowing myself to more fully be myself
Hmm.
because that's what people respond to. People respond to me really just being there
Got
with
it.
them. Um, I will say that have developed a little fun thing that I say about my name at the
Hmm.
top of workshops, which uh, often I need some sort of introduction before I dive in, although I try to dive in pretty quick. But I'll often say like, "Hi, I'm Jessia." Jessia is like, or well, woohoo to me because I'm already like I often say my full name, but hi, I'm Jessia Hoffman, pronouns she, her. Jessia is like Jessica without the C.
See.
My parents did that intentionally. They plucked the C out of my name and they threw it away. And I'm grateful for their creativity. I think it made me a more creative and empowered human being. And then I'll go on to talk about on deck a little bit and what we're doing today.
Hmm.
But I think even just like that's not a super vulnerable thing that I said, but it is a tiny bit more open and a tiny bit more vulnerable than most speakers when they introduce themselves. So already I'm setting a tone just with how I'm choosing
Right.
to intro myself, which seems small, but I get a laugh in literally with my first sentence.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how I'd answer your question.
Yes. No, you did answer, and I think it's also giving people this understanding that uh, you don't have to orchestrate, or you don't have to really plant these moments. Or, it just doesn't come about saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to like do the set one after the other. And a lot of people also think, for that matter, just taking a step back and digging into something like the other side of improv, which is doing a theater kind of an improv, or doing stand-up comedy sort of an improv. People think, even as much as those are sets, it's practice, but a lot of that is also reading the room, right? I just cannot have these techniques come and just told up on the stage when nobody's listening, or when I'm not able to read the room, and all I do is just follow the order. That's not really going to work.
No, yeah, I mean you're hitting on something so important here, which is that what we're doing in an improv class, or when I'm cultivating these skills with people, I keep calling them skills because it's really like working out. I mean,
Yeah.
going to the gym is a great metaphor. Going to the gym, you're like building your physical muscles, right? I guess the brain is also a physical muscle. Improvising, you are rewiring neural pathways, you are building your brain. So every time that you actively practice improv, whether it's formally or informally, you are building your brain, you're building your capacity to say yes to your own ideas, you're
Hmm.
building your capacity to really hear other people and build directly upon their ideas, you're building your capacity to show up somewhere and be able to speak on the spot or speak extemporaneously
Got it.
without a lot of fear or second guessing. Like all of that is coming from the act of like working out essentially.
The
Um, and so
mental
so
workout.
yeah, yeah. And also like I think what's so joyful and energizing and inspiring about improvising is that we are co-creating. Like that
Hmm.
is that is what improv is. It's responding authentically in the moment. Like I say responding because responding means naturally there's something you're responding to.
Hmm.
And I run a number of exercises when I teach creativity that demonstrate to people that you'd think it's easier to come up with ideas kind of randomly when you just have time to come up with them, but actually humans are natural builders, which means that it is so much easier, kind of like giving AI a prompt. It's
Hmm.
I know that you talk a lot about AI, so that's my little AI. But it's so much easier when someone to build, when someone says something and we let our brain naturally get to the next idea. That's actually much easier. It's also more connective, and it leads to more.
Hmm.
Uh, it just leads to like it. We get to follow a path of an idea instead of trying to come up with things randomly. So co-creating is actually when you know how to do it, it's actually easier than it is to just do things
Yeah.
on our own.
Yeah, it's almost like co-creating is going well beyond and then trying to bring a lot of ideas. But at the same time, I do see how it's also like a virtual boundary around, where I know that I can just take off or pick off from what the other people say, and it almost gives me a kind of space to work around and not just like go about totally outside. At the same time, gives me all the time and space to go outside and bring ideas as well. So it's like a nice connotation that it has in both sides. And one last piece that I'd love to, have to put an end to this whole conversation around improv tools is, after all these sessions and exercises and games and all these kinds of experiential activities, how can one practice this or continue to practice this? We're talking about an example like gym, because once I know that these are the reps that I have to put and these are the exercises that I have to do, then there's like me showing up every single day and then doing these. Is there a version of that for improv as well, for me to like keep doing it every day?
Definitely. Definitely. So I'll give you a few options for everyone listening. Number one, if as an individual you're like, I just want to take my first baby step, get Improv Wisdom. I'm going to talk about this book again. Improv Wisdom, it's a very quick read. And what Patricia does is she each chapter she gives you a try this. So there's something to try to expand your improv mindset. And
Hmm.
they're not necessarily like games, it's practices. They're all practices. So I would say that is a step one. If you want to take another step towards practicing improv, find a class in your city. There are also virtual classes. I teach through Stanford Continuing Studies and probably will have a virtual class at some point in 2026. But truly feel free to reach out to me because particularly if you're in the Bay Area, I will have specific recommendations for you. And then the third thing is, which is my favorite, is tell your manager, tell your leaders that you're like, hey, can we try this thing to build our team and to up level us in the human side of things, and I think that can be a really great way to get a first kind of introduction to improv because once you have these games to practice as well as the takeaways around them and the applications, then you can start and when you have people who share that same language as well, you can
Hmm.
start practicing daily and say like today I'm going to see if I can actually use attend towards yes anding, which I know we didn't talk about yes and, but I just have to say that yes and is the poster child of improvisation, and it does not mean to accept everything. That is not what yes anding is. Yes anding is simply building on ideas, even finding one tiny bit of something you can build on in something you disagree with and building from there. It's a very powerful skill, but you have to first kind of understand what it is. But that's all to say, like there's so many there's a game called Three Things that I play all the time just when I want to like wake my brain up, for example, that is
Hmm.
all about letting myself and letting yourself say the next most obvious thing. There's a lot out there that would start, yeah, improv wisdom class or bringing on deck workshops to to work with your team.
Right. What is yes anding? Like, is it trying to improve on like, oh, like yes, and then adding on another thought, or what's yes anding?
Yeah, how much time do you have?
It's a good one. But then what is a quick TLDR version of that?
Yeah. Um, can we play a game really quickly?
Yeah, of course. That's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what I want us to try. We're gonna imagine that you and I know this is only our second time ever speaking, which doesn't seem like it because we're so natural. But
Yeah.
you and we're gonna imagine that we took a trip together. Where did
Mhm.
we go?
We went to Italy.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so we went to Italy, and here's what we're gonna do. Um, we are going to co-create a memory of our trip from Italy, of our
Mhm.
trip to Italy, even though it never happened. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter whether or not you and I have been to Italy. We're just gonna play what we call at the top of our intelligence. Just try do our best to co-create this shared memory,
Sure.
and and what we're going to do is every time one of us offers an idea, the other person is going to accept it by saying, "Oh my gosh, yes, that did happen." And and then build directly upon it. And
Right.
we can have a big idea, we can have a little idea,
Mm.
and it's anything to get to the next building block of the story.
Got it. Got it. Oh my
Okay?
God, like this sounds fun.
So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So do you want to start with a line? You
Sure.
can say, "Yes, yeah, remember that amazing trip we took to Italy."
Right. Yeah, let me go there. Shasya, do you remember that amazing trip that we took to Italy?
Oh, yes, we went. Oh, we went to Italy, and right when we landed, they had breadsticks waiting for us, like on the tarmac.
Yup, it was so crazy. I never realized that they would be so tasty. And do you remember the amazing pasta that we had there?
Yes, they also had pasta. There's breadsticks, and then they brought out those big bowls of pasta, and they were literally the size of our head.
Oh my God, yes. And they were so freshly made. I mean, come on, like we eat all of these cooked pastas in different cafes, but they just make it so fresh.
Yes, they were so fresh. And then remember when we were still on the tarmac, there was a nonna, like a grandmother who came out and said, "Here, come with me and I will show you how to make pasta."
Yeah, that's the least ever thing that we thought, we would get into. And it was so amazing. We literally had a personal cooking class for ourselves.
Yes. And then do you want to add one little detail?
Oh yeah, sure. Do you remember the actual recipe that she taught us? I literally wrote it down when, she was teaching us the whole way.
Yes, you wrote it down, and it was a really an advanced version of Alfredo, and and you took that recipe, and then we actually made it ourselves when we were
Yep.
on that beach.
Yep. And I think it was amazing because we've always been exposed to very unauthentic sort of recipes. This one just hit straight into the nail and it was so, so tasty. I'm so glad we did that. And what did we do after the beach? What do you remember?
So try, instead of asking me a question, try
Hmm.
to name either something that happened on the beach or name
Uh,
what we did. So change it.
okay.
And remember how
And
we
do you remember how we then went to swim in the beach?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. We had the most amazing time on the beachside in Cinque Terre. And we swam so far out that we could look back and see all five cities at once.
Yeah, and amazing it was. And do you also, there was this lemon trees and gentle
The lemon,
smell of lemons coming around.
the le yes, the lemon trees, and then we made our own perfume with the lemons.
Yeah, and we made lemonade as well, right?
Yes,
To
we
finish
did.
off the meal.
Yes, we did. Okay, I'll pause us there. Give yourself a round of applause.
Oh my God, this is
Great.
fun.
Yeah, tell me how. I know that we did it. You can't do this over Zoom, but we did it over Zoom. I threw you in without a lot of context, but tell me, what did you notice about the yes and?
I think for me, the yes and was a very nice way, first off, to let go of the inhibition that, oh my God, I didn't experience this. So perhaps I won't add much to add to this. I think I just let go of that inhibition. So I almost thought of it as, you know what? Yes, I've taken this and let me just go ahead. So it really helped me break that inhibition or that first level of thinking that always comes to say, do I have anything to add? Do I have do I don't have? I think that part was really off the grid. So it almost felt like, no, you know what? I did that damn trip to Italy and let me talk about it, sort of a thing.
I'm so I'm so happy you had that experience. It like lowered the bar for what you were willing
Yes.
willing to share. And here's the thing, like, you know, were all of our ideas brilliant? Like, maybe not. But
Yeah.
the point of yes anding is that when we practice it with when we're actually trying to solve a problem or brainstorm, we if we're yes anding, then we even if the first handful of ideas aren't what we want,
Hmm.
if we keep going, we might branch off into like a 21st idea or a 52nd idea off of the original that is the nugget that we need.
Right. Right.
And in that example, I first introduce yes and do have people fully accept, but as it becomes more nuanced, as I said, like you let's say like I said, and then we went to the beach and you're like, yeah, we went to the beach, and you don't necessarily want to like fully explore the whole part of the beach. You can always say, you know, and uh and we had those sandwiches we ate
Mm.
those sandwiches at the beach that we got at that shop. And then
Mm.
suddenly you're saying yes and building on my idea, but
Right.
you don't have to stay at the beach.
Right. You can
There's so
try
many
to change the setting of sorts.
you can kind of say like, oh, my partner just opened this door, and I'm interested in like acknowledging this door, and I'm also wanting to open a door over here. And then we could always weave back to the beach or like
Mm.
bring that in. But I might be more interested in the sandwiches actually. Like I might be like, oh, I'm so glad that opened the door to the sandwich shop because
Right.
that's actually more useful or
Mm.
interesting. That was a little
Nice.
bit meta, but
No,
but
not
this is
at
all
all.
to
I
say,
think, Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's opening up to so many possibilities. And like you rightly said, let's say I would have said something like sandwiches, or I would have said something like, "Oh, you remember the Scooty ride that we did?" And then it could have probably said, "Oh, yes, I love Scooty." And you might never know. You could say something that another person would perhaps relate the most to, or
Yes.
even like
Yes.
would have more to add on to. So it's almost like doing a guess game, but it's so much fun.
And it's a gift. We call these offers, like every idea that you have that you share is an offer, literally an offering. So
Hmm.
it is a gift to get to share your ideas because then it gives your partner somewhere or your teammate something to build off of. And I think that we often, again, we like will analyze other people's offerings, and then sometimes in meetings there's those silences where it's like nobody, I don't know, things have all been shut down, and
Hmm.
instead it's like how can we we're trying to delight our partners, we're trying to give people, yeah, give people gifts, and it doesn't, it can be, we say shoot for average or aim for average. It doesn't
Hmm.
have to be your best idea ever. It's
Yeah.
just keeping the train rolling so that we can keep progressing instead of getting stuck and trapped. Um
Totally.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
this is such a live demo. Wow.
yeah, yeah. There, I know. I'm like, there's so many. I had a couple games and I didn't play that. I had a couple games that I was thinking about playing on this call, but I played very quickly two others that I hadn't planned. So that's kind of the,
That's
an
cool.
example of going with things. There's a lot. Yes, and is a very rich realm that actually negotiators will talk about it. Like it's
Hmm.
or when it's a tool when we're actually in conflict, to be able to find something to agree with so that
Right.
it doesn't continue to be combative.
Very
There,
interesting.
there's a lot there. And also we don't have to use, we use the words yes and in that demo, but you can yes and without using those words. It's about the
Hmm.
spirit of yes um
Right.
and building. Anyway, there's clearly there's so much, and that's just like one sliver of the improv
Right.
mindset.
Right. And it's nice. I mean, like you planned a couple of other games, but we ended up playing a few others. Would I mean, if you have links or some sort of like write-ups that you've done about a couple of other games, would love to link it on the show notes and have people perhaps like, understand a little more about improv in general. But in fact, hold on to that thought of games because as we come to the end of the conversation, I want to draw some parallels to how we spoke about AI as well. Because today, when we take of AI as a co-partner or someone or something that's just there for us to take care of our work, there's all the coding, there's all the generative media, there's everything that AI is taking care of, and you often quote that humans are the vibe givers. Like there's vibe coding, but then the vibe in it is given by humans.
The
And
vibes come from the people.
yeah, vibes come from the people. But there's also this line of thought where AI is getting better with simulating the warmth, the conversation. So I just want to understand how can humans truly stay creative and original, and how some of the games that you're currently doing. I mean, you could answer this with a game as well, and I'm happy. I'm shamelessly going to say yes to another game. So I really want to understand um, how can humans keep the warmth going, especially as they work with AI as their co-partner in the rest of the other jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where, to be totally honest, I think some people are taking really strong stances for or against AI, and I'm in a space of like I am staying open and curious while also recognizing that like at least everything I know has taught me that human to human interaction is fundamental. Like that is
Hmm.
something that we've been interacting with each other since the beginning of
Yeah.
time. And I am gonna bring in the loneliness epidemic and say that I think that the spirit of improvisation is an antidote to the loneliness epidemic. Yes, well, let me think for a second actually, because I even yesterday I saw a startup. It came up on my LinkedIn that is created by, I think, a Harvard psychologist.
Hmm.
I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's trying to be like the most emotionally intelligent AI. So
Right.
it's trying to be like the AI that you can go to kind of as a not as an actual therapist, but similar to a
Mm,
therapist or a
got it.
friend or a coach or a partner. And yeah, I have mixed feelings simply because I think that there is something that we stand to lose if we're not like looking in another person's eyes and not like allowing there's something fundamental again about like allowing a human to human consciousness to to interact and combine and combine and co-create. So I'd say like I think that I am not going to say anything that will stop AI from being a thing, and I'm
Mm,
excited about being able to use AI to for some of the like really amazing medical advances and to learn things that will actually improve the lives of people. But then we have
right.
to think about, so I kind of am going off your question, but I've been thinking about this a lot. We have to think about like why like if we are trying to improve people's lives, there have
Mm,
to still be like there like how if the goal is to improve people's lives, then there still have to be like fully conscious people.
yeah.
Do you know what I'm
True.
kind of trying to
No,
say?
I do. And in fact, that also brings me to when you work with these people, it's almost come to a point where there is no saying, oh, you know what, I'm not going to use AI. So I think it's come to a place where we see AI as our co-teammates or co-partners, where we almost, co-work with AI. So, and you also would have, been dealing with people from all of these companies where what they lack perhaps is not the tech is something that they're adequately
Yes.
resourced with, but what
Yep.
is lacking still is the creativity or perhaps the execution spirit. So I think I'm thinking of a world where if Jessia had to coach people or train people with improv, where people's own teammates are AI, and it's also like it's not escaping from there. Is that like a world that you've thought of in generally, where tech adequacy is there, but there's like, oh my God, you need more creativity.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like I okay. And then this is subject, this is like current me December 2025. We'll see. But I do think that there are probably moments when we can practice some of these skills and like practice we're talking about creativity a lot. Practice creativity
Hmm.
intentionally with like an AI teammate by with whether it's a built app specifically for that or
Hmm.
for giving the AI prompts, like teaching an AI. I have taught an AI, and I think a few people have to play this game that I mentioned, three things.
Hmm.
Which
What is three things?
yeah, we can play.
Oh my God, I'm going to shamelessly say yes. What do you even mean? Yes.
Okay. Okay, so uh what we'll do is between each little round, the first thing you need to know is put your fists up like this. And on the count of three, which will be weird on Zoom, we'll say three things.
Okay.
Okay, one, two, three.
Three
Three
things.
things. Okay, perfect. And now I'm gonna give you a category with at least three things in it. So it could be three things that fly, or three things that are blue, or three ways to say I love you.
Hmm.
And you are going to name three things in that category.
Okay.
However, you're gonna do it as quickly as you can, but what you say, the accuracy of what you say doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Speed is brilliance. So
Okay.
if I say name three things that are blue and you say my shirt to the sky and your eyes, Jessia, which they are kind of blue,
Yes.
those are technically correct. But if you said like, oh, three things that are blue, like plants, buildings, and my face, even though those most of those aren't or none of them are blue,
Yeah.
because you said it quickly, we're just gonna say yes to that, and we're gonna
Okay.
affirm you by saying three things, and then you give me a category.
Okay.
That's how it goes, and we keep going.
Okay.
Want to try it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Two.
ready?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you good? Okay.
Yep.
Uh, one, two, three. Three things.
Three things.
Three very small things.
My AirPods, sometimes my fears, and sometimes my confidence.
Yes. That's perfect. Three things.
Three things.
Yeah.
Um, three things that you cannot leave your house without.
Oh, my face, my phone, and my sense of self.
Three
Three
things.
things. Three things that make you really curious.
Art, tech, and someone who wouldn't shut their mouth.
Three
Three
things.
things. Um, three things that help you glow up.
Glow up. Oh, I like really feeling myself, putting on music and singing.
Three things.
Three things. Okay, we'll pause there. Uh, so when we play a game, well, I'll get back to AI, but when we play a game like that, um, well, there's a few things that happen. One, often people are what we call stockpiling categories. Like, I don't know
Hmm.
if you did you find yourself wanting to be like, oh, what category am I going to ask?
Actually, I think what went into my mind is almost like, think of something that you can absurdly say and that's still okay. And like, kind of like stockpiling on the options more than
That's
the.
so interesting. Yeah, and so how I'd coach you in
Mhm.
that moment, if you shared that in a debrief, I'd say like, okay, that's great. It makes sense that your brain is going there because one, you're like trying to explore the bounds of the freedom, which hopefully is unbounded, and two, we've been taught to analyze and prepare all of our lives, and so it's a new thing to say,
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to set aside those stockpiled answers and let something just come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I always say we're not removing our filters. We're still respectful human beings in a workplace setting, but we're loosening the more oppressive ones that, again, as we talked about before, tell us we have to have a great idea before we share something. So
Yeah.
the point of the game is not to like usually what happens in this game is people are not trying to be funny, but they are funny. And that's where again that point about creativity comes in of
Hmm.
like the more you play this, the more you will get comfortable and both answering the categories and giving categories
Yeah.
without trying to plan at
True.
all.
And I think it
So
also makes you a bit vulnerable because, you automatically start being
yeah.
so authentic. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, vulnerability is huge in what I do, but I'm always, trying to I'm getting people to be vulnerable just to their edges,
Mm.
really like so that they don't
Yeah.
turn away from me or
Got it.
shut down or get defensive. It's like, you're getting a little more
Yeah.
vulnerable, having a good time. And that vulnerability is a very powerful leadership skill,
Yeah.
like to be able, or leadership practice really to be able to show up and be a little more vulnerable than the person sitting across from you is very powerful because vulnerability is actually reciprocal. So
Mm.
if I'm a little more open, then you're a little more open most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
so
also like a truth-telling game that Joey and Phoebe play. It's almost like that.
yeah, yeah. And I also say with three things, like we don't hold you to like, the ideas like, oh, like, you know, Aish really thinks this. Like, no, we're like we're really
Non-judgmental.
preparing our minds to have
Yes.
ideas and sometimes like sometimes
Mhm.
clearing the muck that we need to like get into a space of generation.
Yes. Yes.
So I brought up that game to say a game like that, I could imagine training an AI
Mm.
to play with you. Like
Interesting.
that's where I think AI could be useful if you don't have someone to play with,
Hmm.
or if you're, really feeling shy. Although
That's a good start.
part of the beauty of the game though is what you're naming is like getting comfortable sharing with people. So I I think that like I'm just trying to loop back to your question, but I
Mm.
think that there's ways that we can use AI and like as a collaborative partner.
Yeah.
And I am finding for myself at least that like ooh, even as the models get better, it's just not
Mm.
as fun. It's just not as energizing. And that's like a personal
Mm.
thought, and I have heard it from some other people as well.
Right.
Um, but I Yeah, I guess I will say I still will like put a little bit of a stake in the ground for human
Yeah.
ingenuity and
Yeah.
using AI to like amplify what and help us think through
Mm,
things. But like when we're really trying to like come up with brand
mm.
new ideas and move things forward, I I'm still a fan of getting some humans
Yeah.
in a room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. And I think very contradictory here, as much as there's a lot of the skills that we say are humans or human would require humans to work together. A lot of that I think is important to learn to be able to operate AI well, because only when you have this humanness, only when you have this sense of creativity, can you actually do something better with AI.
That's
Because a lot of,
interesting.
yeah, so for me, like as you kept saying the other part, it's also like, yeah, it makes so much sense, because only when you can handle humans, only when you can actually co-create with humans, can you also co-create better with AI. So I don't know,
Yeah.
like I think for me it was almost like I see AI as an extension of the human mind. So if you're not great with
Mhm.
humans, you're going to slop there with AI as well. So might
Yeah,
as well.
that's a really good point. And I guess it does kind of get back to humans bringing the vibes. Because
Absolutely.
we haven't even talked, which we I know don't have time, but today, but we haven't even really talked a lot about communication. And
Mm.
a lot of what I do, like people also bring me in because they're like, our team needs help with communication. And I'm always like, okay, that's a huge realm. Like what? Tell me more. Tell me more about what exactly you need. But like being very clear, getting your point across, whether you're working with people or prompting, right?
Mm.
An AI teammate, totally agree. Like that is super, super
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, this has been so much fun. Thank you, Jessia. I think I really wanted to break this whole solid ice around what improv really meant. And as we started out this episode, we were talking about how people often think improv is just making jokes and like almost being like a channeler. But then at the end of the day, it's just being, oneself. And I loved all the games that we played. And I would really love for people to check out more of such games and such techniques and tools that they can use to perhaps even get started at their daily lives. And it's just going to be simple, dedicating a couple of minutes every day. And I'm sure that it's even without knowing that they're getting better at it, they could like eventually get closer to being more human, being more oneself, and letting loose of their rigidity. So thank you. I'm very glad that you are here and you shared all that is that you've been working in. All the best with On Deck as well.
Thanks, Aish. I yeah, I really have appreciated our conversation and yeah, I think if I just echoing what you said, if I were to leave people with one thing, it's that when we practice improvising, we're really practicing unlocking our own potential, unlocking our own ingenuity. It's not about like making up stuff that isn't already there. So that's what I hope to do with individuals as well as teams is unlock and tap into that potential.
Right, right. Well said. And yeah, I hope listeners enjoy this episode and understand really how techniques like improv can really help them work together, as we spoke, with themselves, with their peers who are humans, and also who are AI teammates. So, to work well with AI, folks, get out and get to work with humans first. So, yeah. Awesome. It was a fun episode. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you too.